What is up, golf fans, and welcome back. And for me, this is the first two-man scramble of the 2025 year as I took a little hiatus from interviewing people over the holidays. And it's not really a two-man scramble, it's a three-man scramble. I have brothers Spencer and Mitch of the Big Drive Energy podcast, which is joining the Golfer Gang Network. They're the newest group to join us. Mitch, we'll start with you. How are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well, man. I caught a little bit of a cold this last week, so I might sound a little stuffy. I'm gonna do my best to not hack up along into the microphone, use that mute button. But other than that, I'm hanging in there, man. What about yourself?
I'm doing just fine, man. I think that stuff's going around for sure. It's been through my house. But Spencer, he's also joining us. What's up, Spencer? How are you?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing great, man. We just got snow here, so I'm looking to do anything to get my mind off the snow and onto the golf because gets pretty bleak here in the winter at some points.
Yes, and here in the Mid-Atlantic where I am, we just got about 6 inches, and the thought of golf is so far off in the distance that sometimes it's just great to maybe watch some Hawaii golf on the weekends and to talk about golf. And that's what we're going to do here on this podcast. I want to start off, and I don't care which one of you wants to handle this, but I just want to know about your all's story with the game. This is always my first question for my guests because I have had people on the podcast that have started golfing when they were in their mid 30s, almost in their 40s. And I can't imagine how frustrating that has to be as an adult trying to learn this fickle game of golf. But then you've had people that grew up with a golf club in their hands and they don't know anything other than that sport. So what's your all's upbringing? When did you all start playing? I'll let whoever wants to handle this one first go for it.
Well, we started playing when we were probably about 9 and 10. It goes back that far. Basically, our mom was in a women's league at a local golf course. We grew up in Elizabeth, Colorado, very small town, but had a golf course. Ironically, it was owned by a cattle rancher, and actually a really good track. It's 18-hole, championship facility, and she started playing in a women's league and was like, "Hey, I need to get you guys into this," because we grew up playing all sports. We played baseball, football, and basketball. Just the rotation of summer to fall to winter, back to summer, fall, winter, etc. So she was like, "Hey, I need to get you guys into golf." And we when we started, we'd more just mess around. We'd go play 9 holes walking on the weekends. It was like $20 or $30 for the whole family to go walk 9 holes on a Sunday night. And so we just go mess around. We had very baseball-like golf swings, and we just have a good time with it. And then I want to say Mitchell really caught the bug in high school, like early high school. We were probably 12, 13 at that point. And that's when it took off, where we almost exclusively, like, athletically, we're not the most inclined and don't have the height and the size that we needed to play football and basketball and all those sports. So as we kind of got into high school, we gravitated towards golf a little bit more. And that's when the love of the game really took off and turned into, essentially a profession for both of us.
Well, and Spencer also forgot to mention that we both got jobs at the golf course when we were 14 and 15. I started at the golf course that we started playing at. I started the week before my freshman year of high school. He started the summer before his sophomore year of high school. So when we got the jobs at the golf course, that's what completely changed for us, because we were playing, baseball, and he was still playing football. I was definitely not. I was out on that. We rode some motocross when we were growing up, nothing too extensive, but we had some fun doing that as well. But then we got jobs at the golf course, and I mean, we grew up, with a single mom, so we had to get to work when we were 14 and 15. Our mom was like, you want a cell phone? Who's paying for it? You want a car? Who's paying for the insurance? Who's paying for the gas? So we immediately went and got jobs, and I looked around. I was working at the course, and I was like, I can play for free. I can do this whenever I can go hit balls. I can go play after work. And I was like, I'm going to take full advantage of this. So I really jumped in. I think my freshman year, I was shooting in the 90s. And by my senior year, I was like a +2. So it was a very hard progression of, I made a big jump from my sophomore year. I was shooting, I want to say, in the mid to low 80s, to my junior year, I was averaging like 75. So I made a really big jump there. I practiced really, really hard. That's when I really got into it, started playing more competitively. And Spencer was just a little bit behind me. And that's when he went to University of Colorado Springs for their pro golf management program. And he kind of caught the bug a little later. But when would you say you peaked in your golf game, Spencer? Sorry to get a little off the rails.
No, this is great. Go for it.
I don't know. I'm hoping the peak is still coming, to be honest. Like, I probably peaked my junior or senior year of high school. I shot a couple rounds in the 70s, and I thought I was the greatest thing ever. And then when I went to college, I probably peaked in college. I would say I made the Jones Cup team, which
in
is
more than one way.
Yeah, 100%. I made the Jones Cup team, which is all the professional golf management schools get their best 4 or 5 players and go to Florida and play like a Ryder Cup style tournament. And I made that team my junior year of college. So I probably peaked right around then, but I member at a club now, and I have a little kid. So he's started daycare, more full-time daycare / nanny scenario. And now this next summer, I'm going to get to play probably the most I've ever played having that scenario for me. So I'm hoping the peak is still there, but it was probably junior year of college, I would say.
Well, Spencer, father of 5 kids, I can tell you that if you have like this summer break with like daycare and stuff, that's going to end. And then either you're going to get them involved in golf, or like the peak's never coming, or maybe not until they get older. But over me, golfing with kids is like herding cats. I've taken all 5 of them on the course to walk 9 holes. And let's just say I've only done that one time. And there's a reason why I've only done that one time. But I want to ask you, let's backtrack a little bit, because we share something here. We both worked at a golf course. So when I was 13 years old, the club pro at the Wheeling Country Club, where I grew up in West Virginia, paid me with personal check under the table to work early. My brother was 3 years older than me. He was already employed there. We were bag boys, cart boys, pro shop attendants, like everything under the sun. There was a tire that needed changed on a cart. We were the ones that went out and changed the tire. We had to tow a cart back. Like, we did everything. I think that is, if for people that love the game of golf, I think working in that setting, and maybe you guys agree or disagree, is invaluable, because you see the other side of these, not just the game, you see the other side of everything. You are the person taking the money. You are the person that's really hoping for a solid tip, and you get stuck with a buck. Like, you guys, I don't know what you did at your club, but I know for me, I appreciate golf more because of that than if I didn't ever experience that type of upbringing. Do you guys agree or disagree?
100% agree. And I think that's where our podcast, our brand Big Drive Energy, has a different outlook on the game of golf than a lot of the golf podcasts that you see out there, because we worked in the game from being 12 and 13, and Mitchell's first paychecks were also under the table because he wasn't legally able to work. And so we cleaned carts, we picked the driving range, then we worked our way up, and we're both in the pro shop. And then, at the end of 2021, I was the director of golf and he was the head professional. So we've seen it from every level of working on that side of the counter. And that's where really our perspective comes on the game of golf. Now, we play for fun now. Mitchell still teaches, so he's still kind of on that side of the business, but we play for fun now and know what it's like to be on both sides of the counter. And I think that's where our perspective comes in, because if you see, the one downside to working at a golf course was when you get the long hours and you're working in a place where it's only in the summer, like in Colorado, you have golf in the winter, but not consistently. It almost makes you resent playing golf as much. And I love golf more now than I have working in the business from when I got out of college at 22 till the last couple of years. I love playing way more now than I did, because I was like, oh man, I've been here for 10 hours. Do I really want to go hit golf balls right now? No. And now I see it from that perspective too, where now I'm back to being on the front side of the counter and the back instead of the back side. But the experience of that and seeing the game, and really when you break it all down and you think about all the jobs people have, you're out at a golf course, you're hanging with people and checking in people that are trying to have fun that day and trying to just have the best time they can, versus like, you're not stuck in a cubicle and trying, you can't lose to somebody $100 million with a bad investment on a day and ruin your own career. Like, it's very small potatoes in the real world. So it makes you appreciate what golf is and how fun it really is versus the business of it.
I also want to add just the fact that, kind of what Spencer said, we've built our brand somewhat on that, but like I think also anybody that plays golf should be required to see the other side of it. It's similar to like bartending or serving. Like I bartended when I was playing on the mini tours. I bartended when I was back at the golf course. I also bartended there and served there. And it's one of those where you should always have to see the other side of it, because you see all these golf podcasts now. It's like, oh, golfing on Christmas, staying out when it's dark for 2 hours. It's like people don't understand, especially since the COVID boom of golf, which has been great in a lot of ways, but not so great in other ways, is like to be frank, it feels like nobody has any respect for any golf course employees. It is just all about, they're driving across the greens. And we're definitely not the stuffed shirt etiquette guys, if you already can't tell by now. But it's just like how we try to teach people how to carry themselves to where they're not carrying their bag into the pro shop, and not in a demeaning, like, closed off way. Not like we want to welcome everybody to golf, but there's also a way to go about it. And that's what we kind of built like a big TikTok brand on, was just like the crazy shit that we would see in the pro shop every day. Because it is truly one of the most entertaining jobs. And anytime you deal in the general public, you're like, how did this person get out of bed today? More or less get to the golf course and check in for this round of golf. So the whole working at the golf course thing definitely like shaped who we are today, but we definitely have a different perspective, rather than like, oh, just go play golf with your buddies on the weekend and work your 9 to 5. It's like, it's our whole lives. And so a lot of times, like Spencer said, we are able to go play more casual rounds and just enjoy it, record videos, make content out of it. But it used to be like, oh, do I really want to go play 9 holes after I just worked a 10 to 12 hour shift? So we definitely have a different perspective as to the golf industry and just life in general.
I think that if anyone out there is listening to this podcast that has never been in the golf industry, I don't care if you're just cleaning carts, you learn that a little bit is a long way in this game. So being nice to the pro shop attendant, like just being kind, and not, if they're, flustered, don't add to their frustration. As a young adult, as a young man, I still can tell you guys' names, and I can tell you their clubs, that they would give me a $5 tip to clean their clubs, just $5. He could have eaten food off of that club and it would have tasted great. I mean, I cleaned those clubs so well. I had a member once, he lost his cell phone out on the golf course, and I went out on a cart and I found it. Came back, gave me a $50 tip. I mean, that's one of those things, like, I'll never forget that stuff. And it goes to show you, like, a little bit of kindness in the golf industry goes a long way. And so many people, like you mentioned, Mitch, they come in feeling very entitled, and the way that they handle the golf course and themselves on the course. And it's interesting. But I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to go into how you all, with your upbringing that you just very detailed, and I thank you all for being so detailed with how you guys got started with golf. How did you get to the podcasting side of things? Because really, you have to take a passion, and it's got to go to the next level to say, let's start having a podcast about this game that, as you all just eloquently said, can be tiring. And sometimes you kind of don't want to deal with it, but yet you all started a podcast. How did that come about?
I honestly think that we just love, more than anything, to banter with one another. We're like genuinely best friends, and we have been since we were little kids. And we just love, like, no matter, this is a labor of love, this is not our full-time jobs, but we love doing it. We love talking about all sports. We love talking golf. And I think our banter is pretty funny. So when we actually started our own podcast, just all sports, like 2018, I want to say, and we probably did half a dozen or a dozen episodes and just did some fun BS stuff together. And then we started a golf podcast with a different company, and really dove into, there we go. I think that's proper terminology. Really dove into more of the golf centric aspect of it. But we just love talking sports in general. Like, our podcast, probably we talk half other sports and like half to maybe 60% golf. So we talk about everything under the sun, and we just love BSing and discussing our opinions, and no matter how good or bad they are, we have a good time doing it. So
yeah, that's awesome. Spencer, anything you want to add? When did y'all start your golf podcast officially? What year was that?
We started our golf podcast in 2020. So
Okay.
right when COVID is like summer of 2020, we started our golf brand and podcast. And it's been a crazy journey just from the standpoint of being able to be credentialed at PGA Tour events and getting behind, like, you don't want to act like it, but it's still being behind the ropes at either the Waste Management we've been to, or last year in our close to our hometown, the BMW Championship, just being on the range with, sitting next to Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, and they're right there and you can hear their conversations. It's just that access that we've gotten from this and becoming in the media of golf. Started in 2020, but has just grown, and we love, we're the sickos that are watching the PGA Tour. The Mitchell's the sicko that takes it even deeper. He's DP World Tour, LPG. I mean, anything that's on, any golf that's on, he's got it on, and he's like texting me late at night. He's like, did you just see Aldrich Potgieter make this? It's just like these random. And he knows so much about not only the PGA Tour, but DP World Tour and all the tours. And we love following the Twitter accounts that go into the Monday qualifying. Monday Q Info is one of our favorites. Like, we banter with him all the time. And just like the smaller stories of golf and what really makes it, because we see how good the PGA Tour pros are, and like our friends think we're pros, which is technically correct, but also like different realms, from like 3 or 4 different realms from like where the guys on TV are. And I always qualify like, yes, I'm a professional PGA Tour or a PGA member, but not a PGA Tour member, and those are completely different worlds.
Well, Michael Block changed a lot of that for a lot of people at the PGA a couple years ago, which now people hate that guy. I don't know why, but still, nonetheless, that's neither here nor there. How did you guys come up with the name Big Drive Energy? Where did that come from?
So that actually started with part of our creators at the old company when we started as DNVR Golf. So that was a Denver-based golf thing, and we're like, hey, we want to grow this to be, not just Colorado-based, because golf has it has an unlimited market of people. You can be anywhere and like golf. You're up in the Northeast area, like a lot of people love the Steelers, but there's a lot more people that love golf than love the Steelers, and you can reach people in California and people in Washington and wherever. So we kind of just started, brainstorming some names, and they came at us with Big Drive Energy, and we were like, oh, that's perfect, because there's multiple puns with the, just BDE in general that have come about, and it fits us because we like to, take the game seriously when we're playing, but overall it's we're not your stuck up collared golf guys. We're enjoying the game, but enjoying it properly with that background knowledge of the business of it.
Yeah. And it's equally ironic because I am definitely not a long driver of the golf ball. I pride myself on my accuracy and not my long drives, but Spencer hits it pretty damn far. But yeah, it's ironic when it's like my Instagram handle's Big Drive Mitch, and I'm poking it out there 270, 280. Like there's nothing overly impressive about that. It's just more of the name. So.
Well, you guys have a unique touch on the game, and I'm not talking about the professional stuff like the PGA PIF live stuff. To me, it's just also played out. I just hate talking about it. But from the state of golf, as in recreational golf, amateur golf, the regular golfers that you see, you talked about and alluded to the COVID boom, which I agree was great and horrible at the same time for multiple reasons. But how would you all say, well, what is the state of the game of golf right now, in your opinion, being where you are doing what you're doing? Mitch, we'll start with you.
I would say it's in a bit of a transitional phase. Like similar to COVID, we've yet to see really the fallout of the entire situation of what happened in 2020, where yes, there's so many more customers, but really what direction is golf going in? And now, it feels like it's going to an indoor, simulator spots. Like I teach at a simulator spot and it's great, but we've got a bunch of people out here now thinking that simulator golf is real golf. And I'm like, I got to draw a hard line there. Like there's a difference.
Yeah.
I've definitely gotten into it with some people that are like, oh, I shot 67 on the simulator. And it's like, oh, yeah, you didn't make any putts inside of 7 feet. So you probably shot more like 75 right there. But I think the direction of golf it's definitely in a good place, but it needs to be, in all honesty, from our side of it, a lot of the golf pros, like from just an administrative standpoint, people are quitting the golf industry because of the long hours and the lower pay, and just kind of getting belittled by the general public all the time. So they need to start paying pros more. And we're kind of seeing that now. But I think now golf courses and just the game in general is catching up with what the introduction of the millions of new golfers that we had in 2020. So it's super transitional to me.
That's interesting. Spencer, what's your take?
Yeah, I would say somewhat the same as a transitional period, but I think right now we're, 3 or 4 years removed from COVID. So the people that took it up because it was only one of the things you could do at that time, there's definitely people that didn't stick with it. But I think the people that did stick with it are now actually trying to get actively better at the game. And I think that's a really cool opportunity. And like Mitchell spoke to, I think simulators and indoor golf is changing the game. I know in Colorado, we would just put the clubs down for 3 to 4 months at a time unless we'd get to go down to Arizona or Florida. And now it's like I play in a simulator league, which is a blast, not only from a camaraderie and like networking aspect, but also fun to just go out there and play, the opportunity to play Pebble Beach 10 minutes from your house. It is definitely not real golf. But
Spencer loves the 7-foot gimmies. That's for sure.
Yeah, that is a huge upside for me. Having an 8-foot gimme is like my peak of golf. Maybe that's where I peak is the simulator. It's probably the case. But the overall, just how there's so many opportunities for people in not only to work in the business of golf, but there's opportunities for people to play. And I think it is a little frustrating, the whole tee time scenario now. I'm not sure if it is like this where you live, but like we posted a reel a couple months ago and talking about getting tee times because I wanted to play with some buddies for a fantasy football punishment, 3 of us back-to-back, or even just 2 back-to-back tee times. And we in Denver in the summer, you have to wake up at 7 a.m. or even midnight when the tee sheet opens to get a tee time 2 weeks out for most courses. Wow. And it's cutthroat. And so that's where it's a little unfortunate for the standard golfer that hasn't maybe taken it up fully and dove all the way in like some of the addicts that we've met and know over the years. But the opportunity to play in some places is just not where it needs to be. And so, they're actually starting to build more golf courses now versus closing down. I think that's a good, I think golf in 5 to 10 years is going to be in a very different spot. And I think, whether or not it's bad, any pub is good pub and live golf being a thing, I think gets more people talking about golf outside of their own rounds. And I think where the PGA Tour product is now and lifting up the guys like Scotty Scheffler, who everybody seems to love, we didn't like him at first. Not that we didn't like him, but it was more of a bit of like hating on him, not intentionally, but like, hey, this guy's lame, whatever. Now he's so good now that we've kind of done a 180, and I'm actually a big fan of his, but especially after the jail sentence, that's kind of what turned both of us, because we actually Mitchell said something to the effect of, if he went to jail, then I'd respect him. Not that's taking it a little out of context, but then he did, and we're like, okay, what now? But I think
can't keep moving the goalposts on Scotty.
Yeah, the general public, I think now is getting to a point where they're getting so addicted to golf that not only are they playing it, not only are they playing inside in the winters and going to simulator bars, but they're actually starting to watch the PGA Tour, and not as much, but the Live Tour, and pay attention to more professional golf, which is where I think, in order for professional golf to continue to grow in the PGA Tour, like a lot of the fans now are that 60, 70-year-old, older, people that would just watch and have watched these guys and watched PGA Tour since Tiger, Phil, way back in the day. But I think our generation, the 20 to 30-year-olds that play a ton of golf and love to play the game, are now respecting what they see on TV and how amazing it is. Because that's the thing, like when you don't play golf, you just watch golf and you think it's the most boring thing in the world. When you play and realize how good the shots are, my wife is a great example of that. She'll sit and watch golf now because she's gotten into it since COVID, and she realizes how hard it is. And then watching them is not so boring anymore. It's amazing, even though it seems like they make it look easy.
Yeah. And there's people crapping on Hideki Matsuyama who shot 35 under at the Century. It's like, do you know that's still a tough golf course? Like the guy's just playing lights out. I don't want a 35 under at a major tournament, but I love to see these guys go low. That's why I watch these guys. I don't want to see them hacking through 6-inch rough, trying to just struggling to get par. That's not fun. Nonetheless, you guys talked about the transitional aspect of golf. I feel like golf is stuck. I did a podcast. This was months ago. I found a study where the number of golfers has increased rapidly since 2020, and yet the number of golf courses is decreasing. We're losing courses, but we're gaining golfers. And then you get into this cutthroat habit of you can't find a tee time. And there's even companies that are going out and buying up the tee times, then trying to kind of sell them back. Like, it's weird. Where do you see it? I agree with you both that when you said it's in a transitional phase. And again, we're just talking about recreational golf, not the pros. Where do you think it could end up? Like, where's the next phase if we're transitioning from one to the next? What do you think that would look like? Mitchell, we'll start with you.
I would honestly say that I think there's going to be people that don't play anything but simulator golf. If I'm being real honest, yeah, I really think there is a group of people that, first of all, that you don't have to be outside. You can always generally get a time. I think that is just such an untapped market. You're not having to move around a whole lot. You can drink. I'm not saying I personally agree with it, but I think that people are so sick of having to book tee times 2 weeks in advance. You get paired up with some random people at the golf course you don't necessarily want to play with. And that's what we dealt with that as well. I'm sure you did at the golf course where people would complain about like, oh, I don't want to play with this person. So that's another thing about going to a golf course that a lot of people don't like is if they don't have a foursome, they have to play with some random people that they don't necessarily want to play with. But other than that, like I see it continuing to grow and it just needs to be done properly. But I would like to see more golf courses and Spencer and I have talked about this, but so many public golf courses were so mismanaged from a financial standpoint because the golf courses prior to COVID were never built to really make money. They were it was a rich people's game. Rich people own the golf courses. They were like, I want a golf course. As long as it doesn't hemorrhage money, I'm fine with it. Losing a little bit of money, it employs people. It's a great place to be in the community. Now golf courses are being bought by companies that seek to make money. And I mean, that's just capitalism at its finest. I'm not going to hate on it, but it does turn into price gouging for tee times. You're doing 8-minute tee time splits instead of 10 or 9. They're trying to squeeze as many people as possible. So I think there's maybe going to be a slight downturn in order for it to somewhat level out because it can't sustain the path that it's on. Like if it keeps growing at this rate, there's never going to be a tee time for anybody. Every country club is going to be a waiting list. It doesn't seem sustainable to me unless we can build more golf courses, which, real estate is forever just going up by the day. So,
yeah, that's a good point. Spencer, what's your take on the next phase of golf?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was interesting because here in Colorado, we've actually got a couple of new courses going up. Rodeo Dunes, I don't know if you've heard of that. It's basically like abandoned subset, same guys and everything, and they're building like a full-on facility resort style up near the airport in Colorado, which is in the middle of nowhere if you've ever flown in here. So we're kind of seeing where now that's not going to be your everyday course, but that's going to make it more of a destination for people to come. But I think, like Mitchell said, we've seen a few golf courses close down, and I drive by one a fair amount when I go to the airport, and I'm like, man, if they could have just made it one more year, they would have been great because of the COVID boom. They would have been busy and making money. But I think, yeah, unless more golf courses are built, I think there's a point where people are just going to get so tired of, fighting for tee times. And like the people that are kind of on the fence about golf right now, whether they play for fun and when somebody asks them to, the nuts are always going to be the nuts and they're going to find their ways to get tee times or become members. But I think if something doesn't change in the next 2 to 3 years on the recreational side, people are just going to give up the game. And maybe like Mitchell said, if they like it enough to where it's still fun, there's so many simulator places that I think people can just get their fill from that and not take 4.5 hours or whatever a round takes, usually longer than that. I think that's one of the biggest barriers of entry is the time. But I think we're going to start to lose a lot of golfers if there's not more courses or things figured out where people want to go out and play and spend their weekend, 5 hours on their weekend out there.
That's a good point. Good point. All right, let's finish this podcast up with some fun. This is a rapid fire segment. You can take your time answering. You don't have to answer in one words or anything like that. But basically, I'm going to ask you both one at a time questions about the game. It could be about your own personal game, your thoughts on the game. Are y'all ready for this?
Let's do it.
We're going to go Mitch first, then Spencer every single time. So that's the rotation. Let's start off with, if you have to choose, you have the option, ride or walk. What are you doing, Mitch?
Oh, ride 100%. I like to walk, but I also like to have cocktails, sometimes excessively on the golf course. So that and walking, there is something romantic about walking like 9 holes, either early in the morning or like later at night, when it's quiet out there. But if I'm out there with my buddies, it's riding all day.
All right, Spencer.
I will take walking, just with 2 caveats. Mitchell in his cart, so he can hold my drinks. And as long as the course is generally walkable, I'm about it. Like, there's some places that it's just like, this is not even feasible to walk. So in that instance, I'm like, it doesn't make sense to try to walk from one hole to another is like 400 yards. Like, if it's a walkable course, I'll do it anytime.
All right, great. What's your take on music on the golf course? Some people love it, some people hate it. Mitch, where do you stand?
I mean, I like it. I'm of the generation where, for me personally, standing over a ball, as long as the music doesn't abruptly stop or start right when I'm in the middle of my swing, if there's constant noise, I can live with that. And as long as it's at a respectable level, like we used to have people out at the golf course that we were at bring actual boom boxes, like the ones that the 49ers carry out on their shoulders. People would throw those in the back of the cart. And I'm like, let's draw the line somewhere. Okay. I'm all for playing music, but if somebody 250 yards on another hole can hear it, then that's probably an issue. So, but in general, I'm all for it.
All right, Spencer, what about you?
Yep, all for music. It's got to be a decent level where your group can hear it. But I'm all for music. It just adds to the vibe of being out on the golf course for me.
All right, what is your favorite major golf tournament? So we're talking professional golf majors. There's 4 of them. Don't say the players. That's not a major. I don't care what anyone says. Mitch, what's your favorite major?
My favorite major is the Open Championship, formerly known as the British Open. I got to spend a little over a week in Scotland a few years back playing Muirfield and the Old Course and some all-time golf. And once you do that and you see the different style of golf, it's unlike anything you see here in America. And I just think it is so much fun to watch those guys chip it with everybody says the old 7-iron bump and run. That really doesn't exist much anymore. But just manufacture shots that you're not just hitting a 60-degree wedge 300 feet in the air and landing it next to the hole. Like, it really brings out the creativity in golf. So obviously Augusta is kind of on the nose pick. Like, how would anyone not like the Masters? But other than that, like the British Open Championship is far and away my favorite.
All right, Spencer.
My favorite's the U.S. Open. From kind of the same answer. Like, I just love that they play a certain style of golf 50 plus weeks a year on the tour, and then everybody gets together for a major in the U.S. Open. It's like the rough is really long, and it really penalizes. It really brings the cream of the crop to the top, essentially. And so you're getting your best golfers at the top of the leaderboard for U.S. Opens, and I like the fact that the venue changes. That's cool too. I mean, obviously Augusta's great. And like Mitchell said, I hope I'm at Augusta this year. I'm planning to go out there and at least catch a round or 2 of the Masters. So that may change once I'm actually on the grounds of Augusta National. But right now the US Open to me is just it's just very American. And like when Matt Fitzpatrick won it in Boston, like that was just a cool scene. Last year at Pinehurst was a cool scene. So I'm going to say the US Open.
All right. Very good. And this is interesting because you guys have a unique take on the golf industry. What's your take on apparel currently? What people wear when they golf has definitely changed a lot. I feel like we're almost reverting back to the late 1980s with the colors. It's very vibrant and bright, the styles. But then you have things like joggers, sweatshirts. A lot of people don't like it. Some people do love it. What's your take, Mitch?
I draw the line at the joggers that dudes pull halfway up their calf. That shit sends me up a wall. I cannot. When Justin Thomas is wearing the jogger like pulled up to his leg, and I'm like, dude, you're showing. And I have no problem with like shorts or anything. I would say I'm relatively progressive in the apparel area. I'm a rep for Pins and Aces, and they have a bunch of flashy, stuff that pops. It's not your Greg Norman, your old school Adidas or Nike. It's got a lot of flavor to it, but I draw the line at those cuffed jogger pants, and partially too because I'm built like a propane tank with ears, and those joggers are just not for me. They're not built for my body type, so I'm either a pants guy or a shorts guy. I'm not hiking those things halfway up, so that's where I draw the line.
All right, Spencer.
I'm all good with joggers. I wear them plenty. Joggers and hoodies, like golf hoodies, are my favorite thing to wear on the golf course when it's colder out. I'm very in the pro game. I'm very like they should wear this. Like I don't think the PGA Tour pros should wear shorts, which is kind of a hot take that I have, because I think that people recreationally can wear anything. But I'm pretty progressive too, and I love seeing the new designs and all the stuff that people could bring out when we used to buy for the golf course and buy the clothes. And like Travis Matthews, great, but they're like, hey, this is our Travis Matthew with gray on top and one stripe. Oh, this one's got two stripes across the middle of it. Like I'm kind of glad we're out of that, and people can still wear that. And there's definitely a market for that, like a Patrick Cantlay type of guy. But overall, I love where the apparel's going, and it's getting, more and more fun by the day, I think.
All right. Next question. What's your biggest pet peeve on the golf course? Mitch, what do you think?
Oh, we just talked about this on our pod in the last week or two. When somebody keeps my score for me and I don't ask them to, and then they ask me after every hole what I had, when it's very evident they know what I had. And they never ask you, like, if you make birdie, they know you made birdie. They're not going to say like it's never like oh, you made birdie, congratulations. It's like, oh, what did you have there? And they want me to say I made triple. I'm like, I made 7, because I'm not the person that's off in the woods, like disappears from the group. I generally keep it in play. So if it's a big number, it's in everyone's face. So I'm like, I don't want to sound like a dick, but I'm good enough at golf to where I know what I'm shooting. It's generally somewhere around par. And I don't need you to keep my score for me. I'll keep my own score. I also have integrity where I'm not going to be shaving strokes. I'm not in high school anymore. So just when people are like, oh yeah, I'll keep your score anyway. I'm like, no, dude, you really don't need to. I'm good. Thank you. Like, because they also like to compare themselves to you, and they're like, well, I made par and you made bogey. I'm like, congratulations, man. This is an 18-hole round of golf. So yeah, that is, as you can tell, that strikes a nerve with me.
Spencer, what about you?
I think my biggest pet peeve is when I say slow play, it's just more of a fact of like when people are not necessarily like intentionally slow, but they don't know what's going on. They don't know to put their cart on the left side of the green when the cart path is over there and the next hole's on the left side. Just like little things like that. Or when people, decide to change clubs after they've taken 3 practice swings. I think that's my biggest pet peeve is just the general pace of play. But if I had to dial it down to one specific one, to me, too much time over the ball for somebody annoys me. Like at 3 practice swings, back up, reline it up, and they're like putting and they're walking around the hole looking at it from 4 different ways and they're putting for 8. I'm like, I would just want to like go over and scoop their ball up for them and be like, it's good. I'm sick of watching this.
Well, and it's one thing if like you're a really good golfer and so you take that time and then you just throw a dart to like 3 feet, or within 10 feet. But it's when you see them take that much time and then they shank it and you're like, oh my gosh, we waited all that time for that. Like this is going to be a long round. But okay, let's move on. What is your favorite golf movie? We have 2 questions left. So this is the second to last one. Mitch, what's your favorite golf movie?
I actually just had my girlfriend watch it for the first time a few weeks ago. Tin Cup, I think, is far and away the best golf movie there is. Kevin Costner is just, he epitomizes, like, I've played on the mini tours. Obviously, that's a very extreme, non-real version of it, but just the beauty of grinding out the US Open and fulfilling a dream. And then, he keeps rinsing it on 18. And you honestly, genuinely feel like shit for the guy because he builds it up to the point where you're so rooting for him. And then, and then he qualifies for the next year's US Open. He gets the girl. It's tough. Like, it's a great movie that includes golf. So I don't think you could top it.
All right. What about you, Spencer?
You of course have the Giants with Caddyshack and like Happy Gilmore, but I recently watched The Long Game on Netflix and I really enjoyed it. Like, it was a really cool story. I think it was based on a true story about like a high school team down in the Texas area, and they were like disrespected, not even allowed to have a golf team, and then they practiced in a field. Like, it was really good, and it's on Netflix. So I'm gonna go with The Long Game. I really enjoyed it.
All right, last question here before I let you all get out of here, and that is, you all are sports guys. You talk about sports. You said you played multiple sports growing up. We all know in baseball, when you're about to bat, sometimes you get a walk-up song, like a song that plays as you're walking to the plate. So if you could choose a song to be played as you are being introduced on the first tee, what song is that? Mitch, I'll let you go first.
I would have to say Thunder. Just the classic rock. We grew up going to Broncos games. We still do. And the intro to the Broncos coming out when the paratroopers are flying in, they play Thunder. And it is, that's what it's called. Spencer, am I correct there?
I think it's maybe Thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck by AC/DC?
I'm sorry. Yes. Thunderstruck.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. Right. I just know it as Thunder because we have a drinking game called Thunder where you drink every time it switches. Every time you hear thunder, you drink until you hear thunder again. And you can get really in the weeds on that. But that song just like gives me goosebumps when I hear it, because it takes me back to being a little kid, like watching the Broncos run out on the field. So that would be my walk-up song.
All right. Awesome. What about you, Spencer?
Mine would be Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. I love
All
that
right.
song, and it gets me hyped up every time I hear it.
I love that. I think those are two good choices. It's interesting how some people, they don't want the amped up because they're on the first tee and they don't want to like duck hook it left or something like that. They'd rather have something a little bit more calming, but everyone's different and music is different for everyone. But guys, I want to thank you all so much for taking the time. I want to give you an opportunity to plug your podcast, plug social media handles, all that stuff. Whoever wants to handle that, go for it.
Yeah, so we are on, obviously on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. Our shows will be live on YouTube. Our YouTube is Big Drive Energy Golf. We'll do a live show every Monday and Wednesday throughout most of the year, and then extra shows on Sundays when there's majors. We like to do live recaps, get a reaction, get people in the comments. On Instagram at Big Drive Energy Golf, as well as TikTok, Big Drive Energy, and Twitter, Big Drive Energy. So we're on all the social medias. We post a lot on Instagram and TikTok, Reels, and just funny stuff that we kind of created our brand around, which we talked about is like educating people without educating them. If you're watching a video and you're like, oh, I do that, then like you're being educated without us directly telling you. So you can follow us on socials at all that. And I am at Big Drive Spence on all the socials, and he's Big Drive Mitch. So.
All right. And they are also now a part of the Golfer Gang Network, which as of in a couple weeks, I'll get our web developer to get their feed on our website. So you could also just find them at golfergang.com to get all that Big Drive energy. But gentlemen, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Welcome to the club, and we'll be talking soon. Take it easy.
Thank you. We're really excited to join the network.
See you guys.